Alright, welcome everybody to round 3 of season 4 here of ZOR. I am your commenter for the afternoon, Zyg. Be flying solo today, so as we wait for this lobby to start, quick note, we have two non-full-time reserves who won't be qualifying, so if you see a couple people who are not going up for qualifying runs, that is the reason why. So hopefully we can get this lobby loaded up without too many issues. And here we go. So yeah, we have 18 drivers, 16 of which will be taking part in qualifying today. So new round and new track as well. First time EU will have raced here. Vietnam, very, very tricky track if you watched any of our other streams from this week. Highly likely to see a lot of people losing wings and spinning on traction here. There's a couple really tricky zones for traction here as well. So as we wait for some drivers, looks like we have somebody coming out of the pits right now. As we wait for some drivers to come out, we will get all of this turned on. So we've got quite a few drivers coming out right now, a lot of people on softs. The softs are kind of the best qualifying tire here. Quite a difference between the softs and the mediums. I will expect maybe a few people to try mediums, but I think it'll be pretty challenging for people to get into the top 10 on mediums. So it looks like Heskey is the lead driver out on track, so we will follow along with him as he's on his outlap. But like I said, expect most people to be qualifying on the soft tires, and strategy for this race, likely a two-stop. You can make the one-stop work, but the soft tires are pretty significantly faster than the mediums, so if you can make the soft tires work in the race, I think that is going to be the preferred strategy for a lot of people here. Overtaking can happen mostly through that corner we just witnessed at the end of the very, very long straight with DRS assistance. Oops, looks like we have a yellow flag in Sector 1. One of the Mercedes going slowly, but they're up and running again. So like I was saying, overtaking can happen after that very long DRS assisted straight. Through Sector 3 though, not very likely. Very twisty turny, a lot of walls, pretty much single file through there. Into maybe turn 1, there's a few overtaking opportunities if you can follow on board closely, but we'll see if anybody's brave enough. As Heskey's, or sorry, this is Gomez, as he's starting his flying lap, let's see, let's follow along with him. So braking for turn 1, he goes a little bit wide there. This is a very tricky traction zone. Pit exit is right where he is right now, so you will, in the race, look out for drivers who are coming out of pit exit. Very tricky zone, or traction zone there. You got to be really careful on that curb. His DRS is open as he's going down, braking for the first of what I'll be calling the kidneys. Really attacking these curves helps get the car rotated, and this is, I think, one of the most difficult parts of the track. You've got to really focus on a strong exit for this very, very long straight. The traction there is extremely challenging. DRS line is pretty far down. It's about halfway. He just opens it there, and then this is a very, very heavy braking zone for a very tight left-hand hairpin, so he's braking here just about as the curb starts. He goes in a little bit deep there. He maybe got on the brakes a little bit too late. Pretty decent run here down into the start of the third sector. Really going to be attacking that curve. He could take a little bit more next time maybe. And then, as I was saying, this very tight and twisty Sector 3, you got to be really, really in a rhythm through here. Ooh, looks like he got a little bit too much curb there. His time still looks to be valid. Braking now for the penultimate corner. And you can take a pretty wide line through there and carry some speed, and then absolutely throwing the car through the last corner there. He sets a 34.7. So we will see as other drivers set their times where that puts him. Looks like Zamaglis is around 3/10 behind. Andre Sousa a little bit further behind from there. If you were watching our Bahrain race last week, Gomez did kind of storm away with that race. Stoth and I, who were commenting, kind of mentioned he might be, it looked kind of like a Lewis Hamilton performance, as GP Colin here looks like he invalidated and might be waiting for Fuzz to come through, and one more driver. So he's doing his best to stay out of drivers' ways who are on flying laps. Zenith sets a time on the mediums, about 2 seconds off, so I don't think he will want to keep that time. Adri goes up to third, about 6/10 away. Let's see if anybody else is on flying laps right now. GP is recovering from that. Fuzz looks like he's on a flying lap right now, finishing as he's coming through that penultimate corner. Somebody was sideways there. That looks like it's Lit Romney. He's going to have a hard time getting out of that. Spinning it around now. Ooh, lost some more of his front wing. Hopefully he's able to get back around pretty quickly and get that changed. Miami now on his out lap. Let's see where Adri went. Adri into third. Crazy Sriracha puts it on provisional pole 3/10 ahead of Gomez at the moment. Heskey looks like he's on an in-lap. This is Dylan as he's accelerating now into the third sector. Let's follow him through. It looks like he's on the flying lap. He's got the ERS turned up. He might be going in. So after kind of the first set of flying laps, it's Crazy Sriracha on provisional pole, 3/10 ahead of Gomez, who's got another 3/10 on Adri. 1 second covering the first driver all the way down to Bag of Bones in 8th place, who is the championship leader at the moment. Lit Romney, he was the driver who lost some wing, so he's going to be hoping to get that fixed and back out as soon as possible. So looks like Beck's on an out lap, so we'll follow along with him, as it looks like a lot of other drivers are in the pits and on in laps right now. Both McLaren's kind of weaving through the third sector on the way to the pits, but like I said, expect soft tires here on for qualifying. Zenith's down in 11th. On the mediums, I don't think he will want to stay there for too long. He looks like he's actually coming out on the softs now. But so yeah, as the first round of qualifying laps have gone through, top 10 looks pretty tight. From 5th down to 8th, very tight, only a couple of tenths between them. It's like one of another out lap there. So we will follow along with Beck as he is starting his flying lap, coming through the last corner, and then like I said, we'll follow him along. Some other people on out laps, so hopefully he can avoid some traffic. As I mentioned, the pit lane exit here is right in this first, what I'll be calling a kidney. And looks like Gomez has come out. He might be getting a tiny bit of dirty air from Gomez, and hopefully Gomez can get out of his way as he gets down. After this first DRS stream, Beck might actually not mind that. He's getting a nice little slipstream there. That'll help him with a tenth or two. He won't mind that at all. As he's braking now for the second kidney. Really attacking those curves, opening the steering up as he gets on traction. Really important to get a good exit there and launch the car down this very long straight. And he looks like he might be picking up another little bit of a slipstream from the Renault ahead of him. That looks like that might be Miami. So he kindly moves out of the way. Beck on the mediums right now, so we'll be interested to see how far up the order he can put himself on those tires. Braking really heavily. He does that very well. I think that's the best we've seen anyone go through that corner so far. In quality, at least that I've seen, as he now approaches this very tight, twisty third sector. Hopefully he's not running into any lap traffic here, or out laps, anything like that. Looks like it's far enough ahead. See him just throwing the car around. It's such a challenging sector. Looks like he is getting blocked a little bit. Ooh, Andre Sousa. Ooh, and they make contact. That's... You don't like to see that. Beck is going to be furious. That was a very, very good lap he had going there. And now that lap is effectively ruined by the out lap traffic there. So looks like we have another yellow flag. in Sector 1. Who was is back up to speed now. See, Zenith's back out on the softs now, so we'll follow along, see what he's doing. Sriracha's on an outlap, as is Adri, so that first couple rows might be moving around a little bit as people set more times. Looks like Fuzz is... looks like Adri is starting his flying lap. So we'll be interested to see if he can close that 0.6 of a second gap to the drivers in front, Crazy Sriracha and Gomez. Zamoglis with the new fastest lap. He goes just under 1/10 of a second ahead of Crazy Sriracha, so he will be very, very happy with that time, and it looks like he might have enough time for one more run. Zenith puts himself up into third, so a good showing from Mercedes so far. First and third, as they stand right now, Andre Sousa moves up to 7th after his lap, so that's going to be a nice improvement for him. Let's see where, looks like we got Miami rounding the final corner now. Let's see where that puts him. Up into 5th. Still just under 0.6 of a second away from provisional pole Zamoglis right now. Looks like we just had another... looks like Lit Romney might have just started a flying lap. Bag of Bones looks like he's finishing an outlap. Let's see who else is out right now. I think a lot of outlaps right now. You can get 3 runs at this, so if people are on their outlaps or flying laps right now, they should have a few more minutes before they'll need to come out for that last one. So let's see. He's turned up the engine. He's got all his fuel mix and ERS ready to go, and he's going to be trying to close that very narrow gap between him and Zamoglis for a pole position. Looks like there's a Mercedes going slowly in Sector 3. Hopefully that's just lap traffic or outlap and getting out of people's way. I think both Mercedes have just set laps, so yeah, they're coming in right now. Heskey goes provisional pole with a very good time, a 1:34.2, so just very fine margins between the top 3 right now, less than 1/10 of a second. Let's see what Crazy Sriracha can do as he accelerates down that very long straight. Gets a pretty good exit. He's going to be... he has a lot of time to think now before he opens that DRS about how brave he wants to be on the brakes. Pretty well, gets the car rotated nicely through there. A little bit of oversteer on exit, but he got that sorted out. Now we'll see if he has any time to find through this 3rd sector. A little bit of a lockup, but he attacks the curb well now. Very, very close walls here. Maximum concentration needed, especially during qualifying when the car is at its peak. Really aggressive on the curb there. He looks like he got him a little bit deep. Braking for the penultimate corner now. See how much time he can find as he throws it through the final corner, completely out of ERS, and he goes pole by almost 1.5 seconds. So he found a lot of time, a 1:34.1. Very, very good lap from Crazy Sriracha. And just after, mere minutes after Heskey takes provisional pole, Sriracha takes it back. So we've got a nice 3-way battle for pole position here. And then as we look down the rest of the field, Zenith in 4th so far, 1/2 second back, and only 1 second between, or 1/2 second between 4th place, excuse me, and 11th. So a very, very tight field there, looking to get into the top 10, and 1/10 of a second here could net you a row or more on the grid. So like I said, a couple drivers down at the bottom who are not who are just filling in as reserves, will not be taking part in qualifying. So if you see a couple of drivers down there not qualifying, that's the reason why. Got about 3 minutes left, so enough time. We see a lot of people in the pits and on out laps right now. Looks like Adri's on a flying lap, maybe on an in lap. He's going a little bit slowly, only in 5th gear, so he looks like he's on an in lap. A lot of people now taking their last set of tires and going out for their last lap, as we see quite a few people on out laps and in the pits preparing. So looks like California's on a flying lap. Let's see. He's maybe not thrilled with his time so far. Let's see if he can improve that. He's got a 136.0, so we'll see if he can improve that at all. He's 2/10 down through the first sector, so we won't be happy with that. But if there's, or for the first 2 sectors, but if he can really throw the car here through the 3rd sector, he can make up that time and more. Ooh, hits the wall on the exit of the final corner, was not able to improve his time, and he's going to have to limp back around. Dylan looks like he just started a flying lap. Going through the kidney there, or I guess a little bit into a flying lap. Quite a bit of traffic, as you can see, people slowing down to let other drivers through, as we see California do right there. Dylan looks like he's on an out lap. Our provisional pole sitter right now, Crazy Sriracha, is still in the pits, and if he wants to get out for, he's out right now. So he's got just about a minute and a half. It's going to be really tight for him and for Adri in front of him to make it around. We'll see how close they can cut it. As Zenith now out lap, let's look around for people who might be finishing. Fuzz looks like he's on a flying lap, or he was out lap, excuse me. More shuffling for position on out laps. Side by side for Beck and Bag of Bones there. Not quite sure what's going on there, and if they're on out laps or in laps or what, but looks like Beck slows down. Remember, Beck was impeded on his last flying lap by Crazy Sriracha, and looks like he might have been impeded again. We'll wait and see, but as we just have 30 seconds left in the session now, a lot of people on their flying laps or preparing for them. So let's see. Zamagos looks to have been just starting a flying lap, so we'll ride on board with him. Andre Sousa out. Let's see as he's crossing the line where he can finish. He moves up into 5th with a 134.4. So that's a good time from him. Bag of Bones looks like he just got his flying lap started in time. So he will have all the benefit of track evolution to help with that. Ooh, Dylan, a little bit wobbly there through that traction zone in the end of Sector 2. He looks like he's not able to improve on his earlier times. He's 3/10 down. As we have some people crossing the line, let's see what Gomez can do. 34.5, about 4/10 away from pole position right now. Brandon, he's crossing the line for an out lap. Looks like he might not have gotten around in time. We'll follow along here with Zenith as looks like Zamaglis is rounding the final corner. We'll see if he can improve at all. And he does, a 34.0, so he takes provisional pole by 11 thousandths of a second. And Heskey takes it right back with a 33.666, almost 4/10 ahead of Zamaglis. So that was a very good lap from Heskey right at the end of the session to take pole. We'll see what Zenith can do now as he's making his way through the third sector, through the penultimate corner and into the final corner. How aggressive is it going to be? Looks pretty aggressive, throwing the car in, opening up the DRS, and he takes second position, a 33.7, so 1/10 of a second, behind Heskey, who's on provisional pole right now. Let's see if anybody can take it away from him. I don't think so. Looks like everybody else is back in the pits. Fuzz looks like he is already past the line after the checkered flag, so it looks like his session is over and he's gone slowly. And also looks like AI took over for him. So that's looks like our final order for qualifying. So Heskey on pole position with a 33.6, Zenith behind him with a 33.7, Zamaglis a 34.0, just less than a tenth away from that elusive 33. Crazy Sriracha in fourth, Miami in fifth, Andre Sousa in sixth, Gomez in seventh, our previous race winner at Bahrain, Beck in eighth with a 34.5, Adri is in ninth with a 34.2, Fuzz in 10th. And we'll get to the rest of the order in just a minute. But as we expected, a lot of the drivers in the top 10 on the soft tires. They really are the fastest tire here. Be interesting to see what drivers outside the top 10 do. WC96 in 11th, 35.1. So he was the highest driver unable to get into the 34. Bones behind him, California, Brandon in 14th, Dylan in 15th, Lit Romney in 16th, with GP Colin and Ryan, our two reserves, not participating in qualifying. So quite an interesting grid here, as Vietnam is a new track. A lot of drivers don't have a lot of experience here, so that can lead to a pretty mixed up grid, should lead to a very entertaining race. So less than a second separating the top 9, with about a tenth separating the top 3, if I remember correctly. So it's going to be a really tight race. Very, very interesting to see how the strategy with safety cars and everything is going to play out. So stay tuned. We're going to have a very exciting race in store. So as this formation laps begins, like I said, you will see quite a kind of a toss-up here with strategy. The two-stop, if you go 2 stints on the soft tire and then onto the medium tire, can be pretty quick. The one-stop, if you make it onto the hards, can be also very competitive. So we'll see here tires, everyone outside the top 10 starting on mediums, with the exception of California on the hard. So he might be looking to go deep into this race and maybe benefit from a safety car, or switch onto the soft tires at the end of the race. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Like I said, this is a new track this year, so a lot of drivers will not be having a lot of experience with it just yet. So expect mistakes, expect safety cars and spins, broken wings, extra pit stops, all of those things that prove for a very exciting, entertaining, and unpredictable race. So everyone outside the top 10, like I said, on the mediums with the exception of California on the hards, should be interesting to see how those hold up to the soft tires. The softs will last for about, use softs at the start with heavy fuel, around 6 or 7, maybe 8 or 9, 10 laps. I would say 6 or 7 probably useful, meaningful laps before they really start to degrade. So it'll be really interesting to see. what happens, and especially as safety cars might be playing a pretty big role. If that early safety car comes out, can be a tough decision between pitting and getting that free pit stop and losing track position. So as you can see here, predicted pit stop strategy. Game seems to think the 2-stop is the preferred strategy, but the 1-stop can work. We saw that in our other tiers throughout the week. The 1-stop can work pretty well, depending on how you handle traffic and everything like that. So grid just now forming up. Heskey on pole position, remember. Then the 2 Mercedes behind him, Crazy Sriracha, rounding out those top 2 rows. So not a very long run into turn 1. So a start, very, very important. You don't have a lot of time to make up for a poor start, especially through those very tricky kidneys. So stay tuned. It's going to be really interesting, action-packed 28 laps, I imagine, as we wait for the 5 lights to come on. 2, 3, 4, 5 lights, and held very long time. Away we go. Looks like Heskey gets a pretty good start. Clean getaway from everybody down the grid. A lot of bobbing and weaving as we go down. Heskey, oh, looks like we have a little bit of a glitch here. Looks like Heskey's still out in the lead with Jinnit in second. Zamoglis might have spun. What happened to Zamoglis? He's backwards, along with one of the Haas's. That's, caused quite a traffic jam. GP, Collins, Zamoglis, and WC96 all caught up in that. We have a full course safety car, full course caution safety car to start this race. So Heskey, bit of a glitch here. Heskey's in first position on track. I don't know why. Bag of Bones. He looks to be in 7th or 8th. This list is first, and here we go. We got it fixed now. So full course caution safety car here. That's very interesting. A lot of damage caused further down from that collision between WC96, GP Colin, and Zamoglis. Looks like Zamoglis is missing an end plate, so is WC96. So I imagine both of them will be pitting. We'll see who else decides to pit as we go down. Looks like somebody else is going. Oh, that's the safety car. So we'll see who decides to pit. Obviously, those drivers with damage will choose to pit. I imagine everybody on the medians will choose to stay out, but will be interesting to see who from the top 10 chooses to come into the pits and get that free pit stop. So as I predicted, safety car already on lap 1 playing a role in this race. So looks like Heskey has stayed out. Most drivers look like they are staying out, so no one in the top 10 looks like they're wanting to take the risk of that free pit stop, with the exception of Beck. Don't know if he has damage or not, but he's seems to think the pit stop now is going to be worthwhile. Maybe he's counting on a pit stop later on. California, a 5-second penalty for a severe collision. Looks like we have another bit of a glitch here, but looks like it's sorted out now. Hopefully it will be as they go across the next timing line. This being a new track to the F1 game, there were some timing glitches that some have been patched out, some are continuing to work themselves out. So if the order on screen is not the order I say, that can be the reason why. But Heskey is in first place right now. Beck, I believe, is in the pits. So like I said, as we cross timing lines for sectors, those things should be worked out. Heskey has stayed out on his soft tires. Jinnit behind him. Andre Sousa, Crazy Sriracha. Let's pull up and see what happens for positions. So Andre Sousa, the big winner from that opening lap, he gained 3 positions. Gomez gained a position as Bag of Bones gained. There's a little bit of bumping there from him and Fuzz. Hopefully they can get that sorted out. Looks like Fuzz has got the position there. The Bag of Bones had gained 4 positions off the start. Whit Romney 7 and Ryan 8. So all those drivers with damage and who chose those pit stops, shaking up the order a little bit. Everybody in the top 6 is on the softs. Bag of Bones is in a very good position right now. He's in 7th on medium tires that will last pretty far into this race. Fuzz in 8th on softs. The rest of the field on mediums or hards. For those drivers who didn't make pit stops, most of them electing to go with the medium tire, which makes sense. We did see Brandon and GP Colin each selecting the hard tires, so they're counting on going pretty deep into this race. I do not expect the hards to last, as Brandon picks up a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So it looks like maybe he and Adri may be wanting to come in and change tires, deciding later on. It's like Adri's serving his 5-second penalty right now, and Brandon changing his wings, so that collision between them might have given each of them some damage, and for Adri time to serve that penalty. But yeah, for the drivers outside the top 10, or for those who've pitted already, we've already seen one safety car. I would expect to maybe see another one, or at least a VSC later, so those drivers on the mediums hopefully are thinking they can run deep into this race and then pit again with another cheap or free pit stop under the VSC or safety car. Hopefully a safety car in this lap and we can get back to racing, but we only lasted a few corners before the safety car. Hopefully we can go a little bit longer in this next stint. And this safety car period will be making all those drivers who started on softs, it's giving them a lot of time to think about their strategy and when they might want to pit. So the other thing this is going to allow drivers to do is anyone who relied on the safety car for their fuel management, 3 laps is a long time to save fuel. So if anybody underfueled their car or took close to just the minimum amount to get across those 28 laps, this is a chance for them to save up a lot of fuel. For drivers who might have overfueled, 3 laps behind the safety car will leave them with a lot of excess fuel. So that's something to keep in mind as well as we run later in this race. Drivers might not be doing a lot of fuel saving, but will probably be doing a lot of fuel burning. Looks like we're going to have one more lap under the safety car, as we have a couple drivers still forming up to the back here. There was quite a few collisions, so a lot of time to get the track cleared off, but it's given those drivers in the top 10 a lot of time to think about their strategy. If they want to try to make the one-stop work now. Those softs, like I said, these 4 laps under the safety car are really going to open up that one-stop strategy from the soft tires to the hard tire. I would expect a lot of drivers to be thinking about that. Because the pit lane's pretty short here. It cuts out the first 2 corners and the final 2 corners. So the pit lane here is pretty short, but obviously anytime you can be out on track going at race speed versus in the pit lane, you want to be taking that race speed option. So I imagine now we'll see drivers trying to make that one-stop work. Otherwise, they're going to be setting some really quick times with those softs that have not undergone too much wear yet. So hopefully lap 5 here we can get some green flag racing. I know these drivers don't want to be driving behind the safety car for the entire race, so hopefully we can get some green flag racing. I would expect the safety car to be in this lap. Going to quickly just check along any other penalties. Looks like GP, Zimaglis, Adri, a lot of drivers picked up 5-second penalties for collisions, so those might play a factor as we get later into the race. Safety car is in this lap, as you can see at the bottom of the screen, so we will get back to race speed here very quickly. So everyone from Dylan up yet to make a stop. California down has made a stop. So Heskey getting ready to lead them. He looks like he's got a pretty good jump. He's already got a 1.6 second gap to Zenith behind, so he got a very good jump. He's got overtake turned on and he's gone. So Zenith's going to have quite a bit of work to do to catch him up, as he's already opened up a 2-second gap. So he timed that safety car restart very well. Looks like Gomez, Crazy Sriracha, and Miami are battling. Gomez goes into the runoff area back onto the track. Sriracha leaves him space, but he might try the switch back later, as he's able to take a lot better line through that first kidney and get a very strong exit. Chooses not to use his overtake button yet, but he might as they get down the back straight. So Heskey, a very, very good safety car restart. Props to him, as he timed that perfectly. He's already opened up a 2.4 second gap to Zenith in second place. Andre Sousa in third, less than a second behind Zenith. He's going to be hoping to stick with him until the DRS opens. Crazy Sriracha now. He's followed by Miami. He is trying to close in that half-second gap, as we see Fuzz and Bag of Bones continue to battle. We saw some penalties for a collision between these two drivers, and it looks like they are continuing. Fuzz with a lockup. He goes in deep. Bones thought about it. Ooh, and Bones spins on traction coming out of the hairpin, and he's run into the wall, and he's lost some of his front wing. So he's going to be struggling massively now in this race. The field bunched up, and he's right at the back, as we see Ryan go up the inside of California. Beck got a great view of that. He's on his fresh medium tires. Is going to be hoping to go very deep into this race. Up at the front, unchanged, we have Heskey from Zenith, Andre Sousa, Gomez, Crazy Sriracha, and Miami. Gaps there starting to stabilize, as Zenith sets the fastest lap. So he's pulled in about half a second from the beginning of this lap, and that gap is continuing to close. So as those tires warm up, Zenith is closing that gap quickly. Beck got a good view of this train ahead of him, all on medium tires, as we see Lit Romney struggling a little bit there through that first two corners. Ryan and California are going to be ready to pounce if he makes any more mistakes. 4 in a row here, from Lit Romney in 8th down to Beck in 11th, as they head down to that second kidney. The gap at the front, keep an eye on that. It's down to 1.6 seconds, so it's continuing to close. We'll see who can get more out of those soft tires, as these 4 from and Beck struggles a little bit there on acceleration. As I said, that's one of the most challenging parts of the entire track, in my opinion. As we look further ahead, Lit Romney trying to find a way through, but there's just too many cars ahead of him. As Ryan and California going side by side, Ryan locks up, but he's got the corner. California a little bit better traction. He has to go over the curb, and they're still side by side. As Ryan now looks like he's got a little bit of a nose ahead, and California gives up that position momentarily, as Ryan locks up. California just ahead, and Ryan had to back off. Very close racing, very clean racing from those two. You love to see it. DRS is going to be enabled this lap, so that's going to make this 4-way battle here in the midfield that much closer, as the following drivers will have the advantage of DRS, all clearly within a second of the driver ahead, so they'll have that DRS after this first kidney, heading down into the next turn 4 or 5, I believe. But the gap at the front, Heskey looks like he might have recovered a little bit. The gap is 2.5 seconds to Zenith, which is another 2.7 to Andre Sousa. Gomez hoping to get that gap within a second so he can get the DRS from Andre Sousa ahead. Crazy Sriracha less than a second from him. He's going to be having some DRS assistance as they head onto the back straight, so we'll follow along with them for a minute. He's got that overtake button engaged, but it looks like Gomez has got a very good launch. Andre Sousa seems to be struggling a bit. Gomez with the DRS open, and Crazy Sriracha with the DRS open. Let's look further down here. These drivers all seem to be holding position pretty well. So let's turn our attention back front, as Crazy Sriracha right on the back of Gomez. not too many more opportunities this particular lap. I think he might have to wait again as we have some damage later down the field. Lit Romney and Beck, so we moved away from that battle just as these two came together. Don't know what exactly happened there, but we know how closely those drivers were battling, and looks like they came off a little worse from the wear there. Heskey has dropped back. He's going into the pits, so he's taking the initiative to start those pit stops, going onto the median tires, so I would imagine he's going to be looking to two-stop as we have yellow flags in Sector 2. What's happening here? Looks like Bag of Bones has had a mistake. Beck struggling massively right now. Don't know if he had damage from that collision, but he is making some positions up as the pit window is open now if you're looking to do the two-stop from the soft. So after all of that, with a few spins, a few pits, let's run through the order real quick. We have Zenith out in front. He's opened up a nice gap to Andre Gomez, who's in second. The gap is 4 seconds. Andre Gomez does not have quite that same gap to Gomez in third or Crazy Sriracha in fourth. They are right behind each other. Let's see if Gomez is going to make a move. Nope, he's going to think better of it. He has very little ERS to play with as Crazy Sriracha came in with a very late move there. Miami now seeing if he can make another move on Crazy Sriracha as they are starting the third sector. A little bit of a lock-up there, it looks like, from Crazy Sriracha as they're moving through the third sector. Very close racing from these three. We'll see, it looks like Zenith is electing to stay out another lap, so he's thinking he has some life in those soft tires still. Andre Sousa is coming into the pits, as is Crazy Sriracha. Miami is staying out. He's going to hope that he has some grip left in those tires as well, so he will be moving up into second place behind Zenith. The two of them yet to pit, as Fuzz is also yet to pit on those soft tires up in third. As these pit stops get sorted out, let's look later down the field. Ryan, all kinds of movement happening now from these pit stops. We've got quite a battle happening here from Heskey in fourth. He's on those fresh medium tires. California behind him. That gap is about 0.6 of a second. Another 0.6 of a second to Ryan. And about another 0.4 to Zamaglis. So once again, we see these trains forming. Heskey with a bit of a lockup there. Another lockup behind him. So drivers struggling a little bit with the dirty air. And look at this beautiful shot as you can see the drivers following each other through. So as they're released down onto the straight, it is Heskey fourth, California fifth, Ryan in sixth, and Zamaglis in seventh. Those four covered by a span of about 2 seconds between them. Looking down the rest of the field, gaps seem to be pretty stable except for Andre Sousa, who looks like he might be making a move on Brandon. He's got the DRS open, but as Brandon has it as well, he's braking late. He locks up a little bit there. Brandon getting a little bit wide. Brandon struggling a little bit on traction there, and looks like Andre Sousa is having to back out of that move for now. But up ahead, Dylan and GP Colin going side by side. Dylan gets concedes that position for now as we see Miami and Fuzz each coming into pit ahead. So Zenith thinking he still has life left in those soft tires. He's going to be struggling massively even with the advantage of those laps under the safety car. He's going to be struggling, and he's going to be struggling even more as he sees that Heskey has set the new fastest lap, and he's released into second place. So that gap, if it's now about 14.5 seconds, 14.6, that gap I imagine is going to start to close rapidly. So Zenith is going to need to either respond now, maybe on this lap, or if he's thinking he's going to try to make the one stop, he's going to need to try and extract as much life as possible. The way he's using that overtake button and using up all his battery, my guess is he's going to be coming in this lap. He's trying to open up that gap as much as possible. Ryan looks like he might be queuing up to make a move here as Miami picks up a 3-second time penalty, and with a tight battle in the middle of the midfield, that's going to be really costly. So Ryan, he's got the overtake button. He's going to have the DRS open. He looks like he's going to be moving to the inside. California leaves him just enough space, and he looks like he's got that move done as they break. Ooh, California looks like he's struggling a little bit under braking there. He tries to get the switchback, and he does. He gets much better traction than Ryan. Ryan's staying with it. Let's see who is able to get the position, and California with a little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact with Ryan there. Ryan comes off the loser in that particular battle. We'll see if Ryan can make amends for that, as Zamaglis is on the back of him now, so he's going to have to get a move on with a little bit of a lockup into the penultimate corner as they head onto the final corner. Now he will have DRS to help him stay ahead of Zamaglis, but that gap is going to be one to watch as Dylan has come into pit. Zenith has stayed out for another lap, so he must be committing to the one stop, excuse me. He must be committed to the one stop, and you can see the gap that Heskey has from a similar position on the last lap. He's gained almost a second on Zenith, so his tires are going to be struggling. He's going to be struggling massively with those 10-lap-old soft tires. Ryan, who started on these medium tires, is struggling a little bit with those drivers around him who are on slightly fresher tires, only by a lap or two, but still that lap or two can matter greatly. We're talking about tenths and fractions of seconds here, as Ryan is hoping to get a good launch out of that second kidney and on to the very, very long back straight. So we'll see. We'll follow along from Zamaglis and see if Ryan's able to close that gap and make a move. Ryan trying the inside again. He tried this last time, and remember California had the switchback on, so he does a little bit better job holding that inside line there. He hits the wall. Ryan has hit the wall, which has given California that position, and now Ryan's going to be losing that position to Zamaglis as well. He's trying to fight that around the outside, but he lost all momentum coming out of that final corner, so he looks like he hit the inside left wall there as he was preparing for the right-hander, which cost him 2 positions. So he's going to be very upset with himself at that. Zenith has come into the pits to fit the medium tires. We'll see where he's able to slot back out as his pit stop was served. Andre Sousa has picked up a 3-second time penalty, and once again, as we know how tight these races have been, Bahrain last week and this race so far this week, that 3 seconds can be the difference between several positions. If you tuned in last week, you know we had a safety car very late in the race at Bahrain, and those 3-second time penalties were crucial there. And with the high likelihood of another safety car this week, those 3 seconds are going to be could be extremely damaging to his race. So, quick rundown: we have Heskey in first position on 3-lap-old medium tires. Zenith was able to slot back out in second place at 8.5 second gap, so he lost a lot of time to Heskey ahead. Zenith must have liked his chances at we have a yellow flag in sector 1. Trying to see who that is. It might be, we have a VSC, so whoever that was, looks like it might be Lit Romney. Lit Romney's out of the session. Sorry, I couldn't see his onboard footage because he's out of the session, but Lit Romney looks like he struggled out of that first kidney and onto that first DRS straight, or second DRS straight after the start-finish straight, and he is out of this race. So a VSC, for those drivers who have just made their pit stops, they're going to be upset, as that was a chance for them to get a cheap pit stop. California is coming in. He's taking advantage of that VSC, as I believe Ryan had picked up a drive-through penalty for speeding under VSC, so looks like he's coming in to serve that immediately, and California is coming in for a pit stop. So yellow flag in sector 3. Looks like whoever that was, it's been sorted out now, but we have another really good battle going on here at the tail end of this of the race right now between Bag of Bones, Andre Sousa, and Dylan. Only about a second separating those 3 drivers, so that's one to keep an eye on as well. A lot of action up and down the field here. It's getting very tight as tires start to go as drivers are on different tire compounds, pit stops putting drivers out into different positions, so all kinds of action happening here. So quick rundown, we have Heskey in first. On some medium tires, he's got clear track ahead of him. Zenith 8 seconds behind. He has a little bit of lock up there into the hairpin as he's starting the third sector. 8.5 seconds, 8.4 seconds, about what the gap was before the VSC. But Zenith is on 3-lap fresher tires. That could make a difference later on, especially if there's a full course caution. That could be full course caution and safety car. That could be another factor. Zamaglis in third. He is on older medium tires. Remember, he pitted lap 1 because he was involved in that lap 1 incident and had damage, so he has recovered very well to be in third position. He's going to be praying for another safety car right now, as that will allow him to vault very highly, to vault up those up the field very quickly. Miami closely behind him. He's on hard tires that he put on 3 laps ago. And he is, looks like he's struggling a little bit with traction there through the first few corners. And he's got that sorted out as Crazy Sriracha behind him on slightly older tires, but they are the medium, the slightly softer and faster compound. DRS for each of those drivers. Looks like Sriracha might be waiting another couple corners to make a move there. Gomez behind them. We'll get to the rest of the field in a minute, as this battle could be getting pretty spicy as we head down to the hairpin. Very long run. Exit there, extremely important. Miami looks like he got a good exit. He's going to have the benefit of DRS, which Zamaglis will not have. So let's see Miami. Is he going to be pulling to the left or right? He chooses left. Zamaglis stays to the right. That move's done. He had a very, very good run. Zamaglis, not much you can do against someone who's got the DRS and softer tires than you, or newer tires than you, rather. Looks like he was just trying to lose as little time as possible. We'll see if he is willing to concede one more position to Crazy Sriracha as easily as he was that one. Crazy Sriracha is still less than half a second in this. Extremely, extremely challenging to follow in dirty air, but he is doing a very good job as he is right behind Zamaglis. He might be thinking about making a move into turn 1 if he's close enough. Struggled a little bit through the final corner. He might be waiting again for that second or third DRS straight. Very important he gets a good exit here. He's going to have a little bit harder time than Miami did overtaking Zamaglis, so Zamaglis should, as he does right now, have DRS off of Miami. So Crazy Sriracha might be struggling a little bit more to get this move done. Miami had the benefit of overtaking someone who did not have DRS, but he's very aggressive on those curbs. Look at how much curb he's taking and how much that was able to close him up. He looks like he's got that move done before they even reach the straight. So very, very impressive overtake from Crazy Sriracha. Well done to get that, as we have, looks like a yellow flag on the start-finish straight. Looks like Dylan has retired. Looks like he retired, and the pits don't know what the issue was there. We might be finding out after the race, but Crazy Sriracha now is going to be really hoping he can stay within a second. The gap is just over a second now, but he's going to be hoping he can stay within a second of Miami. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult to to stay ahead of Zamaglis. As we're looking down the rest of the field, looks like GP Colin and California are battling really well. As California just got a little bit of a squeeze, GP looks like he gave that position up, so he may be recognized. He overstepped overstepped a little bit there and just yielded that position, as it looks like Crazy Sriracha, as Zamaglis is coming to the pits, so that's what's shaking with the field up there. Zamaglis coming to the pits. Crazy Sriracha is still within a second, so he's going to be getting DRS. Don't know how likely he is going to be able to make that overtake. We will wait and see. Gomez behind them, a gap of about 2 seconds. He can just barely see them. That'll give him a lot of motivation Let's follow along here. Looks like it's one of the closest battles we got on track right now. You can see just how aggressive Crazy Sriracha is on those curbs and that benefit that he gives him as he's able to get such a strong exit compared to his rivals. Miami looks like he might be... No, Sriracha will be getting DRS, but Miami is going to be very hard to defend as Sriracha was basically alongside him before the DRS even opened. And look at that advantage that DRS gives him. Ooh, big lockup, locked up both tires, but is able to get that move done. Able to stay ahead as they enter the third sector. Miami with a good run. He leaves a little bit of space around the outside, Sriracha does. And looks like Miami's just going to have to tuck in and live to fight another day. So all of that battling between those two has allowed Gomez to close that gap up very quickly. It was around 2 seconds at the beginning of the lap, and now that gap is just over a second. So that has benefited Gomez greatly. As Sriracha spins, Sriracha has spun between the penultimate and final corners. Tough for him. He got going quickly. Let's see if he has damage. It's hard to tell from this angle. Hopefully we can get a front view here. It looks like he is missing the left half of his wing, so oh yeah, big lock up there. He's going to be having to come around and pit. He's still trying to stick it around the inside of Fuzz. He's going to have to give that position up. He knows that his grip is going to be greatly compromised with his damaged wing. A shame for Crazy Sriracha. We witnessed a lot of great battles from him. Looks like somebody else is gone in the third sector. Brandon. Looks like he spun and retired in that third sector, so maybe we'll see if there's a safety car or VSC, as we have 2 yellow flags going right now. Now it's just sector 3 for Brandon. Ooh, very tight battle here between Andre Sousa and Bag of Bones. Andre Sousa pretty aggressively moving over into the braking zone to get ahead. Struggled greatly over the curb there. You saw him fighting the steering wheel, and that's going to give Bag of Bones a great opportunity to overtake. As we have more yellow flags here in Sector 2. Unsure for which driver those are being raised, but whoever it was, looks like it's been sorted now, and we're green across the track. So Bones here looking to make a move up the inside of Andre Sousa. Looks like we have another yellow flag further ahead. Both of them lock up. Andre Sousa almost going sideways, going over the curb into the runoff area. Bag of Bones is just having to tuck in behind Andre Sousa. Like we said, overtaking through Sector 3 is virtually impossible, so he might have to live to fight another day. As Andre Sousa has hit the wall and slowed down, and Bones has hit him. So an unexpected contact with the wall from Andre Sousa has led to more unexpected contact from Bones, and now Bones is going to be diving into the pits to change that front wing. Andre Sousa, don't know if he had damage from that. Looks like his, at least the right side of his wing, is okay. Hard to tell exactly what damage he might have inflicted from that. So unfortunate there for Bones. He was doing a good job following in that contact with the driver further ahead. There's not much he could do there. Was not expecting to see all that. So we have some yellow flags in Sector 3, as we have someone else has retired from this race. Marks our 4th retirement. We're down to just 14 drivers. Another yellow flag, but no safety car or VSC, so we'll see if anybody chooses to dive into the pits should one of those two come out. But right now, Heskey's out in front. Not said too much about him since the pit stops. He's been in the lead and has been pretty comfortable on those medium tires. That gap from Zenith was around 8.5 seconds after the last VSC, and Zenith came out of the pits on those mediums. And that gap has since opened up to around 12.2 seconds. So Heskey comfortably out in the lead. He will need to make another stop, as will Zenith behind him, with a little bit of a lockup there into turn 2. So each of those drivers will need to make another stop. Miami's in 3rd on 8-lap-old hard tires. He might be considering stretching those tires to the end of the race. We'll wait and see what happens with those, but should there be another period of VSC, it could be a chance for him to save those tires a little bit. He's about half a second through Sector 1 down on his fastest time, so we'll see if those tires start to give up or not on him. Gomez about 1.3 behind him. Gomez might be hoping to close that gap up before his medium tires fall off the cliff. 10 laps is going to be right about the time where he's going to start to feel the effects of tire wear, and will be struggling a little bit on those. Fuss behind them on 8-lap-old hard tires, just like Miami. He could be considering going to the end on those. Zimaglis, as we did mentioned, was wrapped up in that lap 1 incident. He's recovered really well. He had a great stint on the hard tires after that, and now he's on the mediums. I think he will probably need to make one more stop. I don't think he'll be able to take those 3-lap-old mediums all the way to the end, but we'll see. I've been wrong before. California behind him on 5-lap-old mediums. He will likely be needing to make another stop as well. Adri on 10-lap-old mediums is about 1.3 behind California. If he is able on those old tires to find a little bit of pace and close up that 0.3 of a second, he's going to be benefiting greatly from some DRS. GP Colin behind them, he's on 16-lap-old hard tires, so he has been just putting in a pretty consistent stint on those. Looks like there's a little bit of damage, or a little bit of battling, as Beck has gone into the wall. Beck and GP, I don't know exactly what happened there, but looks like as GP was maybe trying to go into the pits, there was a collision with Beck, and he has been disqualified for going the wrong way. Oh, tough day for Beck. Obstructed in qualifying, and now this incident in the race. Tough day for him. But GP, I think he might have been just looking to come into the pits, and then maybe Beck was trying to go around the outside, and yeah, who knows what exactly happened there. We'll have to wait for the onboard footage to come up later on, but GP into the pits now on softs. He'll run those to the end without too much of a problem. Those fresh soft tires, I would imagine. Bones ahead of him on 1-lap-old soft tires, so he's likely going to be doing the same thing, running those to the end. Crazy Sriracha closing up massively on Ryan. We know how effective he is through these kidneys. We've seen him make a lot of overtakes because of his pace advantage through here. He had just recently set the fastest lap on Ryan. He's following Ryan now, who's on hard tires, so looks like Gomez has picked up a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, so that is going to haunt him and hurt him as we finish up. But some leaders making their final pit stops. Heskey coming in here as we see Crazy Sriracha getting that move done without too much of an issue. Ryan can't be too upset with that. He knows that the pace Sriracha has had, and he's on those fresh tires as well. So Gomez has come in first some soft tires, as has Heskey. So it'll be interesting to see who from the top 10 is still going to make another stop and win. Heskey's come out in third. He's a half a second behind Miami. Those fresh soft tires should be no match for those used hards as they're accelerating. And look at the traction difference there. That's Crazy Sriracha sets another fastest lap, but Heskey, yeah, not much of a competition between those two. Miami knows it as well. He's just tucked in behind, and he's just going to be hoping to stay in the slipstream and maybe catch some DRS as they go. But the gap is about 4.6 seconds to Zenith ahead, so Zenith could consider trying to stretch out those medium tires. That gap is going to be coming down rapidly, but that might be Zenith's best hope for a podium finish here. Miami looks like he's not able to stay close. That gap is already over a second. But Zenith's staying out for another lap, so if he was going to make the move to the soft tires, now would be the time. So he might be choosing to stay out, but he has very, very little ERS, less than 15%, and that gap from Heskey is just going down and down and down with each corner. So if Zenith's hope is to win this race, he's going to have to put on quite the defensive show, because that tire difference is going to be a pretty hard thing to overcome. Looking down the rest of the field here, looks like the gaps are pretty stable. Miami and Fuzz look like they are going to be stretching those hards to the end. I would imagine most people now, if they've not made that final pit stop onto the softs, they're going to be looking to go to the end. Interesting to see, like I said, and what Zenith decides to do. He's able, I believe he's made the one stop from softs now to mediums. If he's able to make those mediums last to the end of the race, that would be quite the accomplishment. GP Cullen sitting the fastest lap with a 1:37. Heskey, that gap now just has disappeared over the lap. And I think that Jim might have to just concede that position. As he's not even needing DRS, he's just able, going into the penultimate corner, with that extreme tire advantage. It's very evident there, and he's just able to pull away. He sets the fastest lap at 1:37.225. He had the advantage of some DRS, but he also made an overtake, so it just shows just how much pace he had across that lap. So Heskey looks like he is going to be pretty smooth sailing out in front. I don't imagine Zenith, who's already fallen out of DRS, is going to be able to challenge him. So it looks like Heskey out in the lead. Plenty of clear track ahead of him as Gomez sets the fastest lap at 1:36.4, so a very impressive lap from him. Zenith in second, and I would imagine, like I said at this point, that he's going to be trying to make those last, as will most of the rest of the field. So looking down, Miami is about 3.7 behind him for that final podium position. Fuzz in fourth. Zamoglis in fifth with a very good recovery drive, it must be said, starting high up the field, involved in the lap 1 incident, pit under the safety car with his new wing, has since made another stop, and he's had a very good recovery drive. But Gomez behind him is on those soft tires. The gap is pretty large, about 5 seconds, but we know how quick those soft compound tires are, so we'll see if that gap comes down and how quickly it does. So California behind in 7th on some worn mediums. Adri, a little bit of a lock up there into the hairpin. Andre Sousa in 9th. Crazy Sriracha in that final podium position. Remember how many, he enjoyed quite a few battles that he was in, a lot of good overtakes from him, so he deserves a point for all of that today. Ryan also involved in a lot of good battles. He is on those hard tires. I don't think he'll be able to close that gap to Crazy Sriracha, but we will wait and see. Bones and GP Colin both on the softs, looking to just have a little bit of fun on those. But now a 3-second time penalty for Crazy Sriracha, and that's going to, as the gap behind him is only 2.9, he's going to have to make sure that gap gets above 3 seconds, and he's able to hold it there. Looks like he's coming into the pits anyway, so he might be fitting on a pair of soft tires, I would imagine, and trying to get fastest lap as well. So Heskey sailing out in front. That gap to Zenith in second is already 4 seconds, so he's not looking like he's going to be challenged for the race victory for the remainder of this race. Zenith in second. We'll be trying to stretch those tires. We'll see if Miami's able to close them in. That gap is about 2 seconds, so, and it looks like it's falling pretty rapidly. So 2 seconds, quite a big gap to make up, especially if you're in Miami's position with 13-lap-old medium tires. But at this point, I would imagine the medium tires will be faster, or 13-lap-old hard tires versus 12-lap-old mediums for Zenith. I imagine Miami will be thinking he has got the fresher and stronger of those two tire sets. Gap is now about 1.5 seconds, so we saw him gain almost half a second across 2 sectors, and another 10th braking here for turn 1. So if he is able to get within DRS, I think that move should be able to be made for Miami. Fuzz will have a little bit harder time. He's pretty far back, but if Zenith's tires go off the cliff or if he makes any mistakes, as we have a yellow flag in Sector 3. Looks like Adri might have had a spin, but he seems to have recovered. Not sure if he has wing damage. It looks like he is missing the right part of his wing, so that looks pretty severe. But with only a few laps to go, he might just try to limp around and save a spot. He's got a pretty large gap to Ryan, who's in that final points position, so he might just try and limp that around for the remainder of the race. Miami, though, is within a second as they head into the third sector, so this could be lap 26 could be a chance for Miami to make a move and get that second position. He's able to gain around 2 or 3 tenths through that third sector. DRS advantage will help as well. As you can see, if you're watching the gap on the left, the gap went about a tenth down just along that straight. He'll lose a little bit of that. That gap will open a little bit as they're heading through this first corner and through traction, just with the results of dirty air and everything. But DRS will help close that up. I would imagine this back straight, I would not think Zenith can put up too much of a fight there, but we will see as he locks up heading into, I believe, turn 4 or 5, the beginning of that second kidney. But you can see there just the traction and grip that Miami still has on those hard tires. They are not fast, but they are durable, and that's what he was relying on here. So that gap down to a tenth of a second. He goes up the inside. Ooh, and they make a little bit of contact. Zenith with a very, very good save there. He was able to avoid losing it there, but when you're traveling at those speeds, the car can get kind of unstable if you turn too quickly. Crazy Sriracha did go onto those soft tires and has set a new fastest lap with a 36.3, so good for him. He will hopefully, if he can make up a couple of positions, or with those non-full-time reserves, we'll see where those points shake out for him, but fastest lap, good result for him of the pace he's had and the overtakes he's been able to make. So Heskey still cruising out in front. Not said too much about him as we have a yellow flag in Sector 3. Don't know who that is. It looks like it's California. California looks to be struggling there with some wing damage. Ooh, as he's going through the third sector, you can see just how much understeer he has. He has no front grip there. He's turning the wheel, but the car's not responding. He's struggling here, but in 7th, he's going to decide to pit. And with that wing damage that he had, I would not blame him at all. So we'll see where he comes out. I imagine some fresh, soft tires and a new front wing for him. Maglas very close here to the back of Gomez. Gomez on those 6-lap-old soft tires. They look like they've given up a little bit on him. Maglas, though, really struggling to close the gap. DRS here, not quite as powerful. He's got almost no battery left. He's going to try to go down the inside, locks up, and just has to back out of that move. And with only one lap and one sector left to go for these two, his chances at an overtake are going down quickly, but 0.7 of a second still possible, especially with the advantage of DRS. But as you can go through the third sector here, you see how much more grip Gomez has on the softs. But if Zamaglis is able to stay within a second and get DRS, he still could get this move done. This is the closest battle we have on track at the moment. Heskey just been cruising out in front. Apologize to him for not showing him more, but he's not really been under too much pressure today. he kind of pulled a Lewis Hamilton, just got out in front and ran his own race. Zenith has done a very good job managing his tires, it must be said. And he looks like he should be able to hold on for that third podium position. Fantastic race for Miami and for Fuzz, for each of them to be able to hold those hard tires for so long. We'll see if Zimaglis is able to make his comeback drive even sweeter with a last lap overtake. It doesn't look like it. Gomez has such good traction with those softs. He's going to be using up all his overtake, all his fuel, but still not quite enough. Looks like Adri might have don't know what's wrong with him, but we'll follow along with Heskey these final corners. Big lockup in the penultimate corner. But as he rounds the final corner, it's been a great race from him. He's done a great job managing his tires, has good pace all day, and a well-deserved race win for him. Miami, good job for him managing tires. He comes home in second. Zenith in third. Held on for as long as he could in that final podium position, but just couldn't quite make it stick for second. Fuzz into fourth place. Good job for him as Gomez comes across the line in fifth. Andre Sousa with a huge lockup as he starts the third sector. Luckily he's not under too much pressure behind, but that just shows you just how challenging it can be to stretch these tires, as he's been on these hards for 15 laps. Another lockup there into the penultimate corner. As he heads to the final corner now, he should be crossing the line in seventh. We'll see if penalties play any effect on his position as Ryan crosses the line in eighth and he's promoted up to seventh. Crazy Sriracha, great job from him. Despite his spin today, he did a very good job. A lot of good overtakes. And looks like he's going to be coming home in 10th with that final points position after penalties. Bag of Bones in 11th. GP Colin and Adri looks like he is rounding out the top, or the last driver to finish here. So after penalties and everything, it is Heskey, your race winner. Miami in second. Zenith in third. Congratulations to our podium. And we will get to the rest of the results in just a minute. So it is Heskey was able to make that two-stop work. As I said at the beginning of the race, if you've got clear air, two-stop can work very well. Miami and Zenith with those other podium positions, each of them with the one-stop. Fuzz in fourth, Zimaglis fifth, Gomez in sixth, Ryan in seventh, Andre Sousa in eighth, California ninth, Crazy Sriracha rounding out the top 10, and he will also get that point for fastest lap, which he set with a 1 minute 36.3. Bag of Bones in 11th, GP Colin, Adri, our final finishers today. Quite a few DNS, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drivers DNF today. To be expected with such a new and challenging track. Somebody described it as if Monaco and Baku met and had a baby. So that, I think, describes this track very well. Twisty, turny. Walls always a threat, as we have seen today. So congratulations to our podium finishers, Heskey, Miami, and Zenith. Good job to each of them. Tune in next week as we will be at China for round 4 for ZOR EU tier. So I'm Zag. Thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you guys next week.